Welcome back, everybody, to part 3, I believe it is. Like I said in the last, that we're looking at cleaning it up. So I started with the speaker, which was very rusty. I basically sanded it, painted the speaker coil part of it black, along with the output transformer, and then the shell of it, or the case of it, used a brown satin paint, just something to look a little better than rust. So there's that part of it. Now we're fixing to tackle this part, and we're going to start disassembly some of this, and I think I'm going to have to take most of this stuff totally off so that I can get to the chassis and clean it, and I'm really thinking that we're going to end up painting this. First thing I'm going to try to do is take this dial off. They look like there's a set screw in here, and let's see if we can break it loose. Yikes. Looks like we may have to spray it. Amazing. I sprayed just a squirt of WD-40 on that, and it broke right loose. I was afraid I would strip that out. So now there, we've got that off. There is a witness mark that my old friend Michael from That Tube Sound used to talk about. So we have a witness mark there. So let me get something to put this up, and then we can take this light off. Going to take a 1/4 inch nut driver, take that off. We'll clip the wires, and then we'll take the tuning condenser out. Let's take some more of this stuff off. We'll go ahead and just clip these wires on their light fixture. We'll replace those. We'll put that up, and we will clean that up and then rewire that a little later. The other thing is I've marked the wires going to the tuning condenser, and you can label them whatever system is good for you. Now this should, as you can see, those go through the chassis there. Should be a few, that's going to be a problem there, getting behind that. We may have to use some sort of little wrench there. If I've got one, let's see if I've got a wrench that'll fit in there. Wow. Yeah, it's just going to take a little bit. Let me get this off camera so that I can get 2 of these. Well, let's go ahead and get these 2 out. Oh, baby. Oh, man, those were tight. That was, for sure. Yikes. I've got a bunch of star washers. These are okay. They just need cleaning up a little bit. Another one there. If my hands are getting in the way, sorry. Of course, it's just a screw coming out. So now what I'm hoping I can do is use being able to swing that a little bit and getting a wrench. Let's close it all up. It is closed. So let's see if we can move it a little bit. Okay. Let me get this off camera. Okay, I was able to ratchet the tuning condenser and hold this, move it back and forth while I'm holding this. It'd probably been best to take that off, and I will probably end up taking it off, but unless I wanted to get this thing off and start getting it cleaned up a little bit. And wow. There we go. And there is the condenser. Very rough. Going to need some lubrication. As you can see how nasty that is. May go ahead and take the mica out of these trimmers so that when I clean it, it won't damage those. I want to show you something. It's kind of odd. I've been working all in this radio. Look at my hands. They're not totally clean, but you would think, as nasty as that radio is, that there would be something more than that on it. It's more stain than anything. All right, I've loosened this screw up, and we're going to try to get this mica out without breaking it. Should be able to, maybe. Let's see if it'll just slide out like that. There it is. There it is. It's very brittle. So we want to get it out like that. All right, we can clean that up. We'll take the other one out and clean it up and put it back together. Did a little cleaning on the tuning condenser, and rewired the lamp, put a new bulb in it. What I did is I took and put it in a little bit of vinegar for about 10 minutes, and then I used an acid brush with short bristles and cleaned it up. Now once I got done, I flushed it really good, neutralized the vinegar. Then I took a scouring pad and buffed it all up. Also cleaned these screws, put the mica back in, cleaned those with vinegar also. Worked out pretty good. Cleaned up these terminals, desoldered those, cleaned those up. So I'm going to set this aside. This is ready to go back, and of course I've replaced the wires for the bulb. Then I took some sewing machine grease and took the back off here, put grease in there, put grease in the front bearings also, and worked it back and forth, and so it works pretty good. And as you can see there, the screws cleaned up rather nice too. I've marked all the leads off the transformer, and I've got those marked in the system that I use. I'm going to take the transformer off, give me some more room, be able to clean it up, paint it a little bit, be able to get on the chassis a little bit more and clean it up. Some of these wires are brittle, so what we'll end up doing probably, as you can see, probably right here, there's one that's cracked. It's probably okay, but we'll put some heat shrink on that before we put it back in. All right, I'm taking the screws out and make sure we don't tear any labels or any wires loose. So there's the transformer, which should clean up halfway decent. And we'll paint that. That'll give us a little bit more surface, we'll pull these caps out, and then we'll be pretty close to, we'll pull the rest of these bakelite blocks out, check those resistors. It will pretty much be a strip chassis, and then we'll clean this mess up and see what we have to do to it. I've got the stuff off the top stripped off of it. Probably not take the cans off. I'll probably take the insides of them out. But you can see it's in pretty rough shape. This is rust, so we'll just see how I don't know if we're going to do navel jelly or how we're going to do it yet. But I'm pretty much getting everything stripped out of it so that I can address it. The underside's not bad. It's just got that smoke, that film on the inside. It's not rusty or anything like that, but the top part is rusty. So, but here we go. Here's the chassis after I used a little navel jelly. I'm going to have to get some more. I'm about out. It's been a while since I've bought any. But on the cans, I used Brasso and some steel wool. They're still a little pitted here and there, but I got the smoke off of it anyway. Cleaned up pretty good, I think. And as you can see on the back, it was in pretty rough shape. I was able to save the label. It's not perfect, but now this label was totally illegible, so I just left it like it was. Wasn't any big deal. Just going to leave it like that. Debated whether to paint it or not. I don't think I am. I'm just going to leave it like this. It's, believe it or not, the rust. I used a little navel jelly and ended up using a little bit on some of the real tough spots. I used some 320 grit sandpaper. Now what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to go under here and I'm going to document, take a lot of pictures, label this stuff, take a lot of pictures, and probably take everything out except the tube sockets themselves. Of course, I got to rebuild the bakelite block capacitors, and that'll be okay. And then I'll have to redo the I think I'm going to restuff the those capacitors. I haven't cleaned them yet, but plenty enough room. This is a wet capacitor. I still feel like there's a little bit of liquid in it, but anyway, got plenty of room to restuff it. So I'm going to take a lot of pictures in here and check all the resistors and clean this mess up, and then start building it back. We'll see how that looks when I get done. Here's a quick shot of the transformer. Laid it on its top there, but I took it out, cleaned it up, and repainted it, and I've just set it in place. I've still got to go back and heat shrink some of the leads, but I set it on the cleaned up chassis just to give you some idea what it looks like. I've got all the components stripped out. As you can see, I've labeled some of the wires, which will more likely a lot of them will be replaced. These look in pretty good shape, but we'll see what they look like after I get done doing some cleaning. As you can see, my hands are not that dirty, but when I go to desolder, it smells like I'm passing by a barbecue place. It has an aroma of hickory smoking barbecue, so makes me hungry every time I work on it. Did some documentation of some of the wiring, and what have you. There is a gimmick capacitor between these, from the antenna coil to the oscillator coil. So I've got that documented. Here's a picture of it. Another thing, that I've got to rebuild these block capacitors, and you've seen me do it before, and there's other articles on there about doing it, and already starting to see a crumble here, so it shouldn't be that hard getting. But I left, this is just what I do. Sometimes I leave the resistors in place. And these three, there's a couple of them that I'm going to leave. They're well within tolerance, and there's some that's out. So these three are probably, I believe these are the three that's going to be replaced, but I left them on the block itself to kind of mark where they're at and kind of the orientation. So that gives me a clue when I'm going back. I'll rebuild it, and then I'll be able to put them back. It's a similar situation. So let me clean this up, and then we'll be wrapping this video up after I get this cleaned up. I've got the underneath cleaned up. I wasn't afraid to get things wet, so I took and put it in a sink full of Dawn good hot soapy water, and used a wire brush and a Scotch-Brite, and got most of it off, and as you can tell, even my labels fared through it. So now the next part is to rebuild some of the components, start putting it back in, recheck them, do the rewiring, go step by step, and see if we can put this and get this thing operational. So that'll do it for this video. I appreciate all my subscribers hanging with me, and I appreciate everybody watching. So from Larry, from the hills of Tennessee, thanks for watching.